We did the running backs earlier today. Now it is time to get into every single matchup for Week 6 fantasy football and decipher who the must starts and must sits are at the wide receiver position in Week 6 fantasy football. Please go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to help me get to 6,000 subscribers, guys, and to show your support. It is greatly appreciated every single day, guys. Let's go ahead and just dive right into the matchups here. Ravens at Titans is the first matchup. As I said in the running back video, this is a London game. You need to have your lineup set by Saturday night because by the time you are awake tomorrow, they will likely be playing. It starts at 8:30 a.m. Central. Please make sure you have your lineup set by Saturday night. Nobody's must start in this matchup. Nobody is, because there's just not enough upside and not enough consistency there with either of their top two options. But they're both higher end flex options. They're both in the upper tier flex options. DeAndre Hopkins coming off a big week. I don't think he's going to be consistent at that. And he just doesn't have enough upside from a big play and touchdown perspective because the offense is just not that good. He's still a good option because of volume. And in PPR leagues, I'm all for it. But in half PPR, if you can find a better option, like even Christian Kirk, I would take over him. But still, DeAndre Hopkins is a relatively high-end flex option. Zay Flowers is as well. Zay Flowers is clearly the wide receiver one. I don't think even another Ravens wide receiver is worth rostering to me. I just don't think so. Zay Flowers is clearly their best playmaker on offense right now. It's not close. And he's handling volume. There's just a matter of time until Zay Flowers gets in the end zone. And honestly, I think I could call it this week because the Titans defense gives up a ton through the air. I'm fine with playing Zay Flowers over a lot of different guys this week. I think he's a pretty high-end flex option. Everybody else is sitting this matchup. Like I said, if you've got Rashad Bateman, if you've got Odell Beckham Jr., don't waste your time. Try to trade him before you drop him. I'm always in favor of trying to trade players before you drop them. But if you can't find a trade partner, drop them. They're just not worth it. Panthers at Dolphins is the next matchup here. And obviously, the wide receivers of the Dolphins, you start them. Tyreek Hill, we don't even need to talk about it. Wide receiver one in fantasy football. Jalen Waddle continues to be a must-start for me. And I've got him ranked above Adam Thielen this week. The offensive upside is just better. And Jalen Waddle finally found the end zone last week. There's good opportunity that he could take advantage of some big plays against a team that is probably going to be the number one draft pick this year, if not top 3. Adam Thielen, definitely must start right now. Adam Thielen, as bad as the Panthers have been, he's been great in fantasy football, that's for sure. He's averaging basically 16 fantasy points per game. Adam Thielen is so clearly the wide receiver one in this offense, it's not close. And they fall behind so early, which is exactly what will happen in this game. And then they're forced to throw to catch up. Adam Thielen gets a ton of garbage time points. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. That's fantasy football points right there that you want. DJ Chark is a flex option. He's the wide receiver 2 on this team, and he's also their big play threat. So if you want to take a shot on DJ Chark, if you've got injuries, if you've got bye weeks that you're dealing with, and you're pretty desperate, DJ Chark is not a bad desperation play. I would take him over a lot of other desperation plays that we're probably going to go over here pretty soon. In fact, in the next matchup, we'll get into it because everybody else is a sit right here. No other Panthers wide receiver is really worth your time. Terrace Marshall, Jonathan Mingo, who I've never liked, dating back to early April. It's not a good sign. It's just not a good situation. Saints and Texans is the next matchup here. Nico Collins, I am big on this week. Not only this week, but I'm big on him. In my rest of season wide receiver rankings I put out on Friday night, Nico Collins was a top 12 wide receiver. And this week, I've got him inside my top 12 as well. Nico Collins is a legit option moving forward. Yes, he had a bad game last week, and a couple weeks before, he had a bad game as well. Nico Collins is in this territory where he's not an established guy, and he doesn't have as big of a name for people to trust. So when he has a big game, people are going to ride the wave, but when he has a bad game, people are ready to jump ship. Do not jump ship off Nico Collins. This guy is a very good wide receiver. He's big, he's physical, he's fast, he runs good routes, he creates separation, he goes over the middle of the field. He can do a lot of things. And after the catch, very, very good player. Nico Collins is must start. Even though the matchup is not great, no Tank Dell. Tank Dell is out. There's a clear answer who the wide receiver 1 is, and it is Nico Collins. Chris Olave is still in must start territory for me. Yes, it was bad last week. If he didn't have a touchdown, it would have been an abysmal week in fantasy football. He's healthy. He's coming into the week with no injury designation. And yes, it's not the ideal situation, and the upside is a little capped, but Chris Olave is still capable of taking big plays to the house because he's a great player. I'm not sitting Chris Olave. Michael Thomas and Robert Woods, both middle to lower tier flex options. There's just not enough upside with either of those guys. Michael Thomas, he's still getting volume, and PPR standpoint, I could see wanting to flex him. But if you're in half PPR, he's just not getting big plays. And if Chris Olave is not going to get big plays, Michael Thomas is not going to. Robert Woods is a decent flex option, but he's still behind Michael Thomas because I think Nico Collins is going to eat this week. And I just don't think that Robert Woods is that good of a player anymore. Yes, he is the second leading target getter in this offense through the first 5 weeks. I just don't see the upside there. It's very similar to a Michael Thomas situation, actually. Tank Dell, you have to sit him. He's out. Like I said, that's why I think Nico Collins is going to have a great week. Everybody else is a sit. Commanders at Falcons is the next matchup here. Nobody's must start. It's just a fact of life. When you're dealing with the Commanders, when you're dealing with the Falcons, none of those wide receivers are going to be must-start guys. Drake London, Terry McLaurin, they're definitely in flex territory, but they're not must-starts. Terry McLaurin is capable of the big play, as is Drake London. And Drake London is the wide receiver one in this offense, and so is Terry McLaurin. Just based on volume and being the wide receiver one and capability of big plays, they're in flex territory, but understand this. Never put these guys as must-start type of guys. They're just not. Unless you're in bad, dire situations, they're not guys that I'm looking forward to playing ever. Jahan Dotson, you gotta sit him. Jahan Dotson has been bad. I wouldn't drop him just yet. I still have hope because I really like the player, but it is not looking good so far. Everybody else is irrelevant. Falcons wide receivers, totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Colts and Jaguars, next matchup here. Calvin Ridley's the lone guy in must-start territory. Calvin Ridley, you have to play him just based on the ability to hit big plays. What he's done this year is similar to Nico Collins a little bit. He either has massive boom games or he has bad games where he just gives you like a couple fantasy points. But the reality is he's still getting plenty of targets. He's still getting around 7 targets per game, and he's capable of big plays. I'm taking a guy who gets at least 7 targets a game with the capability of finding the end zone twice in a game and getting massive big plays. I'm still going to start Calvin Ridley. Christian Kirk, high-end flex option. There's no question. I wrestled with him in start territory. The reality is Christian Kirk's getting more volume than Calvin Ridley, and he has better chemistry with Trevor Lawrence, but the upside really isn't there too much just from a big play perspective and just from a getting in the end zone perspective. Christian Kirk, definitely a massive flex option, high-end flex option, but I still prefer Calvin Ridley right now. Michael Pittman and Josh Downs are in flex territory. Michael Pittman's a tier above Josh Downs, but I don't love either option. I just don't really personally love this Gardner Minshew deal. Like, I think I've seen a lot of people say that Gardner Minshew's actually a better option for these wide receivers than Anthony Richardson. I don't agree with that. I just don't. When you look at the game with Michael Pittman and Gardner Minshew, they were not very good together. It's just, that's what we've seen this year so far. Josh Downs, to me, actually might be a better fit with Gardner Minshew because he can run the shorter routes, and he's not a big play guy, so he's not going to get open down the field, but he's definitely going to get you the underneath routes and over the middle routes as well. Everybody else is irrelevant. Zay Jones is out again, so you don't play anybody else. Seahawks at Bengals is the next matchup here. Jamar Chase back to top 3 wide receiver status in fantasy football. There's no question. Jamar Chase is just an excellent option again. And I think the Bengals' offense is about to catch fire. I think they're about to catch fire. I have a lot of faith in the Bengals. I've had faith in them all season, even through the bad times. You play Jamar Chase, no doubt about it. DK Metcalf is must start. I don't love playing DK Metcalf ever. I think there's a big chance that he gives you nothing a lot, but his ability to give you a lot is also very big as well. DK Metcalf is just too good. And this matchup, honestly, I said it in the running back video, I think this could be a massive scoring option. I think this could be a massive scoring matchup this week. I'm very much looking forward to watching this game, and I believe that wide receivers in this game could have a lot of points. Because don't make a slight out of T. Higgins not being a must-start. Here's the simple reality. T. Higgins is questionable heading into the game. Known as a true game-time call is what I've seen as of Saturday morning. And also, he is in a situation where when you look back to last year, when he has come into games injured, there's a chance he gives you nothing. Nothing at all. He may just be a decoy, or he may just sit the entire game. Proceed with caution with T. Higgins. That's all I'm going to say. If he plays, I mean, he's going to be an option that I'm interested in this type of matchup. Tyler Lockett, definitely a flex option. But I will tell you this, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I believe, and I have said this since the beginning, that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to get it going after the bye week. Well, it's after the bye week now. I see more involvement coming for Jackson Smith-Njigba, and that puts Tyler Lockett immediately in a bad spot. I am calling for more involvement this week from Jackson Smith-Njigba. That's what I'm doing. So I've got faith in Jackson Smith-Njigba. I would not put him in your matchup on purpose, but I will say if you're desperate, if you've got bye weeks, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I am fine telling my audience to play because the upside hasn't shown itself yet, but I know what this guy could do. Look back to 2021 with Ohio State. This guy's a really good player. He just needs opportunities down the field. Trenton Irwin, Tyler Boyd, Bengals options. Nah. If T. Higgins doesn't go, I could see myself going with one of those guys. Preferably Tyler Boyd would move into flex territory if T. Higgins doesn't go. But if T. Higgins plays, I'm not going to play either of those guys. It's a Jamar Chase week. Vikings at Bears is the next matchup here. Jordan Addison is must start. There's no question about this one. He's absolutely a must start guy. He's already looked good with the opportunities he's had, and he's only been averaging about 5 targets per game. That number's about to shoot up immediately. He's probably going to get around 8 to 10 targets this week. The Vikings throw a ton, and Jordan Addison is now the new wide receiver 1 with no Justin Jefferson. There's no question Jordan Addison is the guy. DJ Moore is must start too. DJ Moore is a very good start. He's obviously been massive, and he obviously had basically a 50-point week last week. I get it. I'm putting in DJ Moore. There is worry. I've talked about it this week. I do have issues with DJ Moore because he's just not seeing enough volume, and the efficiency is through the freaking roof. I don't think it stops this week because the matchup is very good. So you play DJ Moore. There's no question. KJ Osborne is flexible. KJ Osborne is certainly flexible. The moment Justin Jefferson went down, KJ Osborne became an immediate option. He immediately started getting targets. I don't love playing him, but he's definitely in the upper tier of flex options because, again, the Vikings throw the ball a lot, and this is a good matchup for him. Darnell Mooney, you can't play him. You can't play any other Chicago Bears wide receiver besides DJ Moore, and everybody else is must sit. 49ers at Browns is the next matchup here. You start your 49ers wide receivers. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I've got Deebo Samuel a couple spots above Brandon Ayuk, and I've talked about it. The reason why is because he handles attempts, rushing attempts. It gives him more volume upside than Brandon Ayuk. That's the reality with Deebo Samuel. So yes, Brandon Ayuk has been better from a statistical standpoint in fantasy football this year. And of course you're going to start him, but do keep in mind that Brandon Ayuk doesn't see the rushing opportunities. And this is the offense, similarly to the Eagles, where there's so many playmakers, not all of them are going to eat week by week. Brandon Ayuk eats, Deebo Samuel eats. They rarely do it together. It's always separately. So start both of them. They're both great options. I think they're going to take advantage of this matchup this week against the Browns defense. Amari Cooper is flexible, but geez, do not go out of your way to play him. No Deshaun Watson this week. I don't like it. PJ Walker, I don't like it, man. I do not like it against the 49ers defense. Proceed with caution. He is a middle to lower tier flex option. Elijah Moore, you sit him because the matchup is bad and the quarterback is not there. Everybody else is sit. Patriots at Raiders. You start both Raiders wide receivers. Clearly, you start Devontae Adams. You don't ever sit Devontae Adams. But Jacoby Myers, I consider must start right now because there's a couple reasons why this week in particular. Number one, he's been very good in fantasy football. Number two, him and Jimmy Garoppolo, they work well together. Very, very well. Number three, Former team, I like the narrative. I think he goes after his former team, and the Patriots are so vulnerable right now. Both of these wide receivers I see having very good games in fantasy football. And I don't love the Raiders. Like, they're not a team that I'm wild on. I don't love Josh McDaniels. I don't love the offense. I don't love Jimmy Garoppolo. But this is a matchup to take advantage of. I'm just telling you that right now. Kendrick Bourne is flexible. The only reason he's flexible is because it's the Raiders. That's the only reason. Do not read into it further than that. Kendrick Bourne is flexible because it's the Raiders, but this team is not good. Everybody else is must sit. If you've got Juju, he's got a concussion. He's out already, but I would drop him. I mean, he's literally worthless in fantasy football. Lions at Buccaneers is the next matchup here. Amon-Ra St. Brown is back. You, of course, play Amon-Ra St. Brown. I ranked him as my wide receiver 17 heading into the week. Of course, he is shot up because we now have confirmation he's coming in 100%. No restrictions here. He's clearly the wide receiver 1. You don't sit Amon-Ra St. Brown, even in a tougher matchup. The Buccaneers defense, they're a tougher defense, man. So you don't sit him, though. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown is not a sit. You play Amon-Ra St. Brown. Mike Evans is still must start as well. He's coming back off the bye week 100%. He injured that hamstring against Marshawn Lattimore the week before. He's coming in 100%. Mike Evans, fire him up. He's just been too good to sit. Jamison Williams is the leading flex option here, but I gotta tell you, none of these guys are high-end options. And it kind of hurts me to say. But Jamison Williams, like, he's to me the shot I would take, because when I look at other guys like Chris Godwin's upside just isn't there. And I said this dating back to the offseason. This is not going to be a good match between him and Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield prefers the deep ball. He's not an accurate thrower. And Chris Godwin is a precision type of guy. That's why he worked well with Tom Brady, because he knew how to read a defense and decipher the underneath routes. That's Chris Godwin's game. That's not Baker Mayfield's game. Chris Godwin's upside isn't there. Josh Reynolds, I like the upside, but week to week it's so unpredictable. He gives you goose eggs sometimes. Jamison Williams, they're trying to get him involved. He was a top 15 pick for them in 2022. They're trying to make it work, and that's the reason Jamison Williams is here. The big playability is there. And while the volume is not consistent with him or Josh Reynolds, I'm still going to take a shot on Jamison Williams because of the big playability. Cardinals at Rams is the next matchup here. Cooper Kupp obviously must start. Came back, was really dominant again already. The guy is simply too important to the offense, and he looked very, very good last week. No questions with Cooper Kupp moving forward. Puka Nacua, I don't have questions on him either. He simply identified himself in this offense as a top-tier option, and it did not change with Cooper Kupp last week. Puka Nacua, do not be worried to start him, even if you have both of them on the same team. I'm playing both of them at the same time. Marquise Brown is an upper-tier flex guy. He's upper tier. He's not must start because the offense is just simply not that good. And without James Conner as a rushing threat, this team might become one-dimensional and just focus on stopping the pass. Because, yes, like, the pass is not great, but the running game is going to be very unpredictable. And I think that Marquise Brown is going to be the guy the Rams are going to focus all their energy on. Upside is there, but I don't think it's going to be anything I'm confident in telling you guys to play. Tutu Atwell, you sit him. It changed with Cooper Kupp. It just changed. I would not confidently tell you guys to play Tutu Atwell. If you want to take a deep shot, if you've got injuries, you've got bye weeks, I can see taking the deep shot. But other than that, I'm just not going to tell my audience to play Tutu Atwell. Everybody else just sit. Eagles at Jets is the next matchup here. A.J. Brown, full go. Why even discuss it? The only thing I will say about this, actually, is that with Sauce Gardner, with this Jets defense, there's a chance that A.J. Brown has a little bit of a down game. Like, compared to his last couple games, there's a chance. And that's why exactly Devonta Smith never goes on your bench, guys. I know it's been bad. But Devonta Smith is capable of launching at any time. At any time. Devonta Smith is simply too good to put on your bench. And like I said, with A.J. Brown specifically, there's a chance that he has a good game because A.J. Brown could be blanketed this week by that secondary. Garrett Wilson's always going to be flexible. I'm never going to tell you guys to do it. I'm never going to tell you guys that you need to put him in your lineup. I'm still depressed on Garrett Wilson. He's clearly the wide receiver 1 in the offense. He's getting targets enough, but the upside just is not there, especially against the Eagles defense that is going to get after Zach Wilson. Everybody else is irrelevant in this matchup. Giants at Bills, the Sunday night game. Stephon Diggs, what is there to talk about? He's been excellent. He's consistently their lead target guy. He's averaging basically 20 fantasy points per game. Never sit Stephon Diggs, ever. And this matchup is great. Gabe Davis is flexible. I'm not going to tell you guys he's a must start because he's inconsistent with his volume. But just based on big playability and the matchup, Gabe Davis is definitely flexible. All Giants wide receivers are benched. Bench. Do not play a Giants wide receiver. And I think you guys understand that. I don't think I need to talk about it too much more. I think it's understood. They're not good. It's not a good situation. Cowboys at Chargers, the Monday night matchup. I like this matchup a lot. Keenan Allen, I don't care if the Cowboys defense focuses in on him. They're too good. Justin Herbert, him, Kellen Moore on offense. The coordinator gets the right plays. That's just the reality here. Keenan Allen is must start. I don't care what the matchup is. CeeDee Lamb, I continue to start him. I know it's been bad. I know it's been underwhelming. Similar to a Jalen Waddle story. But CeeDee Lamb is taking on a much better secondary this week versus the Chargers this week. It's going to be a much better matchup for CeeDee Lamb. Josh Palmer is flexible because he's in this offense. He's in the Chargers offense that is going to get him probably 5 to 6 targets this week. And against the Cowboys defense that is probably going to be honing in on Keenan Allen, I think there could be some opportunities there for Josh Palmer. I'm not playing Quentin Johnston. I'm not telling my audience to play Quentin Johnston. I need to see it to believe it first. He has not been involved in this offense all year, and even with Mike Williams gone, he wasn't involved. Do not start him. Don't drop him, but don't start him. Brandon Cooks, I don't even, like, if he's on your team, you can drop Brandon Cooks. So let me know what questions you need answered before Week 6 fantasy football in the comments below. And if you want to see the must start and sit running backs for Week 6 fantasy football, click on this video right here.